Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever sent a simple "Hi, how are you?" and felt the sinking silence of an ignored message? It's not just you. It's the message. The way you initiate a conversation can set the tone for everything that follows. In a world where communication has become increasingly digital and impersonal, the importance of crafting a compelling first message cannot be overstated. Far too often, people fall into the trap of sending generic greetings like, "Hi, how are you?" or "Hey, what's up?" These messages, while polite, lack the power to grab someone's attention or make a lasting impression. In fact, they can come across as indifferent, routine, or even lazy. When you reach out to someone, especially in the context of building relationships or networking, your opening message must rise above the noise. It must reflect effort, thoughtfulness, and a genuine desire to engage. Imagine the number of messages people receive daily on social media, messaging apps, or even emails. Each of these messages competes for a moment of their attention. Now think about what happens when your message blends into this sea of sameness. It gets overlooked, lost in the shuffle, or worse, dismissed without a second glance. The truth is, people respond to messages that spark curiosity, evoke emotion, or make them feel special. This is about your words have the power to set you apart, but only if they're chosen with care. A generic greeting like "Hi, how are you?" does little to engage the recipient. It puts the burden of continuing the conversation on them, asking them to invest energy into a dialogue that hasn't yet offered any value. It's important to recognize that the first impression isn't just about politeness. It's about creating an immediate connection, a message that feels personal and unique, communicates that you value the other person enough to put thought into your approach. It shows that you're not just going through the motions, but genuinely interested in them and their world. To create a strong first impression, you must begin by understanding the recipient. What are their interests, passions, or recent experiences? What makes them unique? When you take the time to consider these factors, you can craft an opening message that resonates on a deeper level. For instance, instead of saying, "Hi, how are you?" to a friend who recently achieved a milestone, you might say, "Congratulations on your promotion. How does it feel to take on such an exciting new challenge?" This message not only acknowledges their achievement, but also opens the door to a meaningful conversation. The effort you put into tailoring your message speaks volumes about your intentions. A well-crafted message demonstrates that you see the other person as an individual, not just another name on your contact list. It conveys thoughtfulness and sincerity, qualities that are increasingly rare in a world of fast, transactional communication. People want to feel noticed and appreciated, and a personalized message achieves precisely that. Another key aspect of crafting a compelling opening message is the tone you use. Your tone should be warm, inviting, and aligned with the nature of your relationship with the recipient. A professional contact might appreciate a message that is concise yet engaging, such as, "I recently came across your article on leadership strategies. It was incredibly insightful. I'd love to hear more about your approach to team building." On the other hand, a close friend or family member might respond better to a lighthearted or playful tone, such as, "You won't believe what I just saw. It reminded me so much of our last trip." The words you choose should also be designed to evoke a response. Messages that end with open-ended questions or intriguing statements encourage the recipient to engage with you. For example, saying, "I just found the perfect solution to that problem we talked about. Want to hear about it?" is far more engaging than a simple "hi." It creates a sense of anticipation and invites the recipient to take an active role in the conversation. So, finally, it's important to consider the visual impact of your message. In text-based communication, your words are your only tool for creating an impression. Pay attention to the structure and flow of your message, avoiding unnecessary jargon or overly complex language. Use clear, concise sentences that convey your point effectively. If appropriate, consider adding a touch of humor or creativity to make your message stand out. Lastly, crafting a compelling first message requires more than just words. It requires an understanding of human nature. People are naturally drawn to messages that make them feel valued, curious, or excited. When you invest time and effort into your opening message, you're not just starting a conversation, you're laying the foundation for a deeper, more meaningful connection. Personalization is the cornerstone of meaningful communication. In a world where people are bombarded with generic messages and standardized responses, the ability to tailor your words to an individual can set you apart in profound ways. It's not just about saying the right thing. It's about saying it in a way that resonates deeply with the person you're speaking to. When someone feels that you've taken the time to truly see them, understand them, and connect with their experiences, they're far more likely to respond with enthusiasm and openness. One of the reasons personalization is so powerful is that it taps into our innate desire to feel special and valued. Everyone has a need to be recognized, to know that they matter in a world that often feels indifferent. When you craft a message that speaks directly to someone's interests, passions, or recent experiences, you're not just communicating, you're building a bridge of trust and rapport. For instance, consider reaching out to a colleague who recently shared their excitement about a new hobby. Instead of sending a bland message like, "Hey, what's new?" you might say, "I remember you mentioning your interest in photography. Did you get a chance to try out that new lens you were excited about?" This simple shift shows that you've been paying attention and genuinely care about their journey. Another aspect of personalization is understanding the context in which you're communicating. Different situations call for different approaches. And being able to adapt your message accordingly is a skill that can elevate your interactions. For example, if you're reaching out to a professional contact, referencing a shared experience, such as a conference or meeting, can make your message stand out. You might say, "I really enjoyed your presentation at last week's seminar. Your insights on team collaboration were particularly impactful." This not only demonstrates that you were present and engaged, but also opens the door for further discussion. In personal relationships, personalization takes on an even deeper significance. It's about showing that you value the other person enough to remember the little details that make them who they are. Perhaps your friend recently started a new job, and instead of a generic "how's work," you ask, "How's the new role going? Are you finding it as exciting as you hoped? Are you finding it as exciting as you hoped?" This approach invites a richer, more meaningful conversation and makes the other person feel seen and appreciated. The key to effective personalization lies in listening and observing. Often, people provide cues about what matters most to them, whether through their words, actions, or social media posts. Paying attention to these signals can provide valuable insights into their world. If a friend frequently shares posts about their love for cooking, mentioning a new recipe, or asking for their opinion on a trending culinary topic, can spark an engaging conversation. Similarly, if a professional contact shares an article about a recent achievement, congratulating them and expressing genuine interest in their work can leave a lasting impression. So, In this sense, it is not the amount. Personalization also involves understanding the recipient's communication style and preferences. Some people prefer concise messages that get straight to the point, while others enjoy more detailed, thoughtful exchanges. Tailoring your approach to match their style can make your message feel more natural and relatable. For instance, if you know someone values humor, incorporating a lighthearted comment or playful banter can create an instant connection. On the other hand, if they appreciate depth, taking the time to craft a well-thought-out message that reflects their interests can demonstrate your sincerity and effort. It's also important to recognize that personalization doesn't require grand gestures or elaborate messages. Often, it's the small, thoughtful touches that have the greatest impact. A simple acknowledgement of something specific to the other person, whether it's their recent vacation, a new project they're working on, or even their favorite coffee order, can make all the difference. These details show that you've taken the time to consider who they are and what matters to them, which in turn fosters a sense of connection and mutual respect. The benefits of personalization extend far beyond the immediate interaction. When you consistently make an effort to personalize your communication, you build a reputation for being thoughtful, attentive, and authentic. People remember those who make them feel valued. And this positive impression can open doors to deeper relationships, opportunities, and collaborations. Moreover, personalized communication often leads to more engaging and fulfilling conversations, as the other person feels inspired to share more of themselves in return. The art of personalization is about more than just standing out. It's about creating a sense of intimacy and trust in a world that often feels impersonal and disconnected. By taking the time to craft messages that reflect the unique qualities of the person you're speaking to, you demonstrate not only your attention to detail, but also your genuine interest in building a meaningful connection. Understanding the psychology behind communication is a vital component of crafting impactful messages that resonate with others. People respond not only to the content of your words, but also to the emotions and intentions they perceive behind them. When you recognize and tap into the emotional needs and desires of the person you're communicating with, you create a space for connection and engagement that goes far beyond surface level exchanges. Exchanges is the power of communication lies not in saying what you want to say, but in understanding how the other person will receive it and shaping your message accordingly. At the heart of effective communication is the principle that people are drawn to messages that make them feel good about themselves. This isn't about flattery or manipulation. It's about genuinely affirming their sense of worth and importance. When someone feels valued, they are more likely to engage with you, open up, and invest in the interaction. For instance, consider how people react to compliments. A specific, thoughtful compliment like, "Your attention to detail in that project presentation was impressive. It really made a difference," is far more impactful than a generic "good job." The former acknowledges their unique contribution and affirms their abilities, creating a deeper sense of connection. Understanding emotional triggers is another critical aspect of communication psychology. People are more likely to respond to messages that evoke curiosity, excitement, or a sense of relevance. When crafting your message, think about what might spark the recipient's interest or inspire them to take action. For example, instead of saying, "Let's meet sometime," you might say, "I have a few ideas I'd love to run by you. When's a good time to connect?" This approach not only conveys purpose, but also creates anticipation, encouraging them to respond positively. Another element to consider is the impact of framing. The way you present your message can significantly influence how it is received. Positive framing, which focuses on opportunities and benefits rather than problems or criticisms, tends to be more engaging and uplifting. For example, rather than saying you need to work on your communication skills, you could frame it as, your ideas are great. Let's explore ways to make them even more impactful when you share them with others. Let's reschedule 3 times this week. Let's explore ways to make them even more impactful. You share them with others. This subtle shift in tone not only preserves the other person's sense of self-worth, but also fosters a collaborative and solution-oriented mindset. The timing and delivery of your message also play a crucial role in its effectiveness. People are more receptive to communication when they are in a positive or neutral emotional state. Sending a message at the right moment, such as when someone is relaxed or celebrating an achievement, can make a significant difference in how it is perceived. Conversely, approaching someone when they are stressed or preoccupied may result in your message being overlooked or dismissed. Paying attention to context and choosing the right moment to reach out demonstrates emotional intelligence and consideration for the other person's circumstances. Nonverbal cues, though absent in text-based communication, can be simulated through thoughtful language and formatting. The tone of your message, the choice of words, and even the structure of your sentences can convey warmth, enthusiasm, or sincerity. Knowledge, for instance, using exclamation points sparingly to express excitement, incorporating emojis to add a touch of personality, or breaking up long paragraphs into concise, digestible sections can enhance the reader's experience and make your message feel more engaging. Another psychological principle to keep in mind is reciprocity. When you offer value in your communication, whether through helpful information, encouragement, or a thoughtful gesture, you create a sense of goodwill that often prompts the other person to respond in kind. For instance, sharing a resource or idea that aligns with their interest shows that you're invested in their success and well-being. This not only strengthens the relationship, but also increases the likelihood of them reciprocating your efforts. It's also important to recognize the role of empathy in communication. Taking the time to understand and acknowledge the other person's perspective can significantly enhance the quality of your interactions. Empathy allows you to anticipate their needs, address their concerns, and create a sense of mutual understanding. For example, if someone expresses hesitation about a decision, responding with, "I can see why that might feel overwhelming. Let's work through it together," shows that you're attuned to their emotions and willing to support them. Lastly, the psychology of communication underscores the importance of being authentic. People can often sense when a message lacks sincerity or feels rehearsed. Authenticity builds trust and fosters deeper connections because it allows the other person to see you as genuine and relatable. This doesn't mean you have to overshare or be overly casual. It's about being true to yourself while respecting the dynamics of the relationship, whether you're expressing enthusiasm, offering support, or simply reaching out to reconnect. Letting your genuine intentions shine through will make your communication more impactful and memorable. The art of creating intrigue is a subtle yet powerful tool in communication, particularly when your goal is to captivate someone's attention and spark their curiosity. Intrigue draws people in, encouraging them to engage more deeply with what you have to say, because they feel compelled to uncover the full story. This is not about withholding information or being manipulative. It's about presenting your message in a way that inspires curiosity and keeps the other person eager to know more. When used effectively, intrigue can transform an ordinary exchange into an opportunity to leave a lasting impression. One way to create intrigue is by framing your message as a question or statement that hints at something exciting, unexpected, or valuable. For example, instead of sending a message like, "I have something to tell you," you might say, "I came across something that immediately made me think of you. You'll love it." This approach piques the other person's curiosity as it suggests that the information is relevant and interesting to them, while leaving them eager to discover what it is. The key is to provide just enough detail to spark interest without giving everything away up front. Spend time. Another technique involves incorporating an element of surprise or unpredictability into your communication. People are naturally drawn to novelty and unexpected twists, as these engage their attention and make the interaction more memorable. For instance, instead of starting a conversation with a standard greeting like, "Hi, how are you?" you could say, "You won't believe what just happened today. It's wild." Or, "Guess what I just found out about something we talked about last week." These openings create a sense of anticipation and encourage the other person to respond, eager to uncover the details. The use of storytelling is another powerful way to create intrigue. Humans are hardwired to connect with stories, particularly those that include an element of mystery or discovery. When you share a personal anecdote or a situation that unfolds in an engaging way, you invite the listener to join you on a journey. For example, you might start by saying, "I had the most interesting conversation earlier. It completely changed how I see things." And then gradually reveal the details as the conversation progresses. This not only keeps the other person engaged, but also allows them to feel involved in the unfolding narrative. Timing also plays a significant role in generating intrigue. Knowing when to share information and when to hold back can create a sense of rhythm and build up in your communication. For instance, you might mention that you have exciting news to share, but wait for the right moment to reveal it, allowing anticipation to build naturally. Similarly, breaking your message into smaller parts and sharing them over time can create a sense of ongoing engagement as the other person looks forward to the next installment. In written communication, the way you structure your words can enhance intrigue. Using open-ended statements or leaving room for interpretation encourages the reader to fill in the blanks and ask follow-up questions. For example, instead of saying, "I've been working on a new project," you could say, "I've been pouring my energy into something new. It's a little different from what I usually do, and I think you'd find it fascinating." This approach invites the other person to engage by asking, "What's the project about?" Or, "Why do you think I'd find it fascinating?" The tone of your message can also contribute to intrigue. A playful, enthusiastic, or slightly mysterious tone can make your words more engaging and memorable. For example, instead of saying, "I wanted to tell you about a book I read," you could say, "I just finished a book that completely changed the way I think. It's like it was written for us to discuss." The shift in tone adds an element of excitement and personal connection, making the other person more eager to hear what you have to say. Another aspect of creating intrigue is leveraging shared experiences, inside jokes, or mutual interest. When you reference something that only the two of you understand or have in common, it creates a sense of exclusivity and connection. For instance, you might say, "Remember that conversation we had about specific topic? Something just happened that ties directly to it. I can't wait to tell you about it." This not only sparks curiosity, but also reinforces the bond you share. It's important to know that creating intrigue is not about using language that reflects shared experiences or values can also enhance emotional resonance. People are naturally drawn to messages that align with their own beliefs or aspirations because it reinforces their sense of identity. For example, instead of saying, "This project is important," you might say, "This project has the potential to create a real, lasting impact. Something I know you care deeply about." By aligning your words with what they value, you make your message feel personal and relevant, increasing its emotional weight. Storytelling is another powerful tool for creating emotional resonance. Stories allow you to convey complex ideas or emotions in a way that is relatable and memorable. When you share a story, you invite the listener to step into your perspective and experience the narrative alongside you. For example, if you want to inspire someone to take action, you might share a personal anecdote about a time when you faced a similar challenge and overcame it. For example, don't ever say, "This not only illustrates your point, but also fosters a sense of connection by showing vulnerability and authenticity." The choice of words and tone can significantly influence how emotionally resonant your message feels. Warm, inclusive, and encouraging language tends to evoke positive emotions and create a sense of belonging. For example, phrases like, "We can work through this together," or "Your effort doesn't go unnoticed," convey support and appreciation, which can strengthen the emotional bond between you and the recipient. On the other hand, harsh or overly critical language can create distance and diminish the impact of your message, even if your intentions are good. Timing and context are also crucial when aiming to build emotional resonance. The same message can evoke entirely different reactions, depending on when and how it is delivered. For example, expressing gratitude or admiration during a moment of celebration can amplify the positive emotions already present, while offering words of encouragement during a difficult time can provide much-needed comfort and reassurance. Well, by being mindful of the timing and context of your communication, you can ensure that your words have the greatest possible impact. One of the most overlooked aspects of emotional resonance is the importance of listening. Effective communication isn't just about speaking. It's about creating a dialogue where the other person feels heard and understood. When you actively listen to someone, you gain insight into their thoughts and feelings, which allows you to respond in a way that resonates with them on a deeper level. For example, if someone shares their frustrations with you, reflecting back what they've said, such as, "It sounds like you've been dealing with a lot lately, and that's really tough," shows that you're truly listening and empathizing with their experience. Nonverbal elements such as tone, pacing, and even the rhythm of your speech also contribute to emotional resonance. A calm and steady tone can convey reassurance and stability, while a more animated and enthusiastic tone can inspire excitement and motivation. Similarly, the way you structure your message can influence how it is received. A massive gratitude can inspire a massive, starting with a positive affirmation, addressing any concerns with care, and ending on an uplifting note, creates a natural flow that draws the listener in and leaves them feeling empowered. Another way to build emotional resonance is by expressing genuine appreciation or gratitude. When people feel valued, they are more likely to respond positively to your communication. For example, instead of simply making requests, you might frame it by acknowledging the other person's efforts or contributions. I've always admired how you approach challenges with such creativity. Your input would mean a lot to me on this. This not only makes your request more compelling, but also strengthens the emotional connection by showing that you recognize and value their unique qualities. It's also important to recognize that emotional resonance often requires vulnerability. When you allow yourself to be open and honest about your own feelings, you create a space for others to do the same. This doesn't mean oversharing or being overly emotional. It's about being authentic and relatable. For example, admitting that you're nervous about a situation, but excited about the possibilities, can make you appear more human and approachable, which in turn encourages the other person to connect with you on a deeper level. Lastly, emotional resonance thrives on consistency. When your words, actions, and tone consistently reflect genuine care and respect for the other person, you build trust and credibility over time. This creates a foundation where your communication naturally resonates on an emotional level because it is seen as an extension of the relationship you've cultivated. Ability to effectively handle and manage your own emotions is a cornerstone of successful communication and interpersonal relationships. Emotional control doesn't mean suppressing your feelings or pretending that you're always calm and collected. Instead, it means having the self-awareness to recognize your emotions as they arise and the ability to respond in a way that aligns with your goals, values, and the situation at hand. When you master emotional control, you create an environment where you are in the driver's seat of your own reactions, making you more adaptable, approachable, and composed in every interaction. One of the key elements of emotional control is self-awarenesses. Before you can manage your emotions, you first need to be in tune with them. Self-awareness allows you to identify what you're feeling in real time, whether it's frustration, excitement, anxiety, or joy. This means tuning into your internal state and acknowledging what is happening without judgment. When you're able to recognize the emotions you're experiencing, you give yourself the opportunity to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. For example, if you're feeling irritated during a conversation, self-awareness helps you understand why you're feeling that way, whether it's because of something the other person said or because you're already dealing with personal stress, and gives you the space to pause and choose a more measured response. Self-regulation is the next step in emotional control. Once you identify your emotions, the next phase is managing them in a way that serves you in the situation. Emotional regulation involves using strategies to calm yourself down when you feel overwhelmed or preventing yourself from being swept away by intense emotions. This might involve taking a few deep breaths, pausing before responding, or even stepping away from the situation temporarily to collect your thoughts. Stepping away from the situation temporarily to collect your thoughts. When you learn to regulate your emotions effectively, you prevent knee-jerk reactions that could damage relationships or escalate a situation unnecessarily. For example, if someone challenges you in a conversation, rather than immediately defending yourself or reacting in anger, emotional control allows you to pause, assess the situation, and respond in a way that is composed and constructive. Another important component of emotional control is empathy. Empathy allows you to understand not only your own emotions, but also the emotions of others. When you can recognize and resonate with the feelings of those around you, it becomes easier to navigate difficult conversations and handle sensitive situations. For instance, if you see that someone is upset, empathy enables you to respond in a way that is compassionate and supportive, rather than reacting defensively or dismissively. When you show empathy, you create a space for open communication and understanding, which helps prevent conflicts and strengthens bonds. Effective emotional control also requires patience and tolerance. Often, situations arise that push us out of our comfort zones or challenge our emotional resilience. These are the moments where your emotional control is truly tested. By cultivating patience and tolerance, you become better equipped to handle frustration, disappointment, or anger without letting these emotions take control of the conversation or situation. For example, when someone is being difficult or uncooperative, rather than succumbing to impatience or frustration, emotional control allows you to remain calm